better be recording this stuff because this is gold.
This is
all right. We got to make this fun.
Make it fun.
Right?
We're making it fun.
We're making
fishing
fly
fun again.
fishing fun again. We have
welcome,
to not take everything so serious.
Yep.
Welcome back to Spooled, everyone. I'm your host here, Matt Hartman, today, joined by my good buddies, Brian Pitzer and Joe King.
Hey, Matt.
Hey, guys.
Hey,
happening?
what's
It's officially winter. It's a little chilly out there. But hopefully you're listening somewhere a little bit warmer, like your house.
Most places are much warmer than northern Michigan right now.
Except for Montana.
It's about
cow.
time we got some winter.
Yeah.
I'm so excited. This is going to be good.
It's about time.
And we need
it.
We need snow.
Yeah.
So we need the snowpack.
Fun episode for... This is kind of the episode for folks, I think, with cabin fever. Like, here's some tips for you for when you're feeling the itch and you want to get out and go fishing. I mean, we all get the itch. Joe, I know you do. Brian, absolutely, I do. I'm not there yet. Thankfully, I actually snuck out the other day with Casey, but that was fun. Yeah.
Good.
Nice.
But
Good.
these are some tips, 5 tips, and maybe a little bonus round for you to use your time wisely today. So we're excited about this episode. And before we get into it, we have a listener question, actually. We had a listener in the shop the other day. Levi was in.
Listener,
Long
first time
time.
caller.
Oh, I don't think we should open this up to calls.
No, we should
Oh my,
definitely.
the heckling would never cease.
It
but
would never cease. It'd be fun, though.
Casey
we
would
had
get all
a-
his buddy calling in.
Yeah, I know. We had a discussion with him about no-hackle dry flies, and I thought that was the perfect thing to have a short discussion about what that is, why we like it, when to fish them, and maybe some of our favorite no-hackle patterns. But I love no-hackle patterns because, and we should define it first probably, right? And it is what it sounds. It's a dry fly tied without hackle. So there's a lot of way to achieve flotation. There's a lot of other alternative materials out there. And, CDC, deer hair, snowshoe rabbit's a great one. Do you guys fish no-hackle dries much?
Yeah. This past summer, I did a lot of CDC patterns and tried a few ideas that failed, but most of that stuff, like Renee Harrop out in Idaho, and then
He's like the CDC king.
yeah.
House of Hair.
Yeah.
and then out of Scandinavia.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of people tying with CDC. So experimenting with that stuff, and they look great. Sometimes they get a response, and then tried some funky stuff that didn't work out, but super fun.
Yeah. It's I think no hackle patterns make tons of sense for some of our waters because we have flat water, right? We don't
It's
need
more like a spring creek.
Yeah,
honestly.
we don't need always the extra buoyancy and flotation of hackle. I think a hackle kind of like outriggers on a canoe.
Right.
And I've always read that, the more hackle, especially if you look back at the old Catskill style patterns, they're not the most imitative. It doesn't always give the best prey image to a fish.
Or silhouette, yeah.
Right. So we take that away and we let something sit in the film. It looks a little bit more natural, I think, is the idea.
I think it's much better for pressured fish.
Oh, totally agree.
Much more difficult for the angler to see, but, much better.
That's a good
you'll
point.
get better results.
That's a really good point. They are absolutely tougher to see.
So a lot of times, a tip there, if you're going to fish a no-hackle, fish it behind a parachute. So you fish the two dry fly rig, run that tandem rig. That's what I do a lot of times, especially with clients.
When
that
you
can't
do that, do you run the same size or do you run a slightly smaller fly
No,
behind?
I'll run like, the same. Let's say it's a Borchers, right? And then something I can see, and then off the back of that, I'll put like a no-hackle Borchers to imitate either, like an Isonychia, for example. I like the no-hackle with the ISOs because you get those really big fish up, and a lot of times it's still light out, so they're a little bit more wary. It's not like putting a hex bug over them.
Well, I think especially during our most pressured times of year, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Not that
Sulfurs.
there's a super easy. I think the bigger you go, the tougher it is. That's a key thing. If you get into hex range, brown drake range, it's
sulfur
tough.
range, easy to make no-hackle
Sulfur's
sulfurs.
great.
Yeah.
So worth checking out if you're looking for tying inspiration this winter. I would absolutely add some of these to your box. I think that it's not as popular. I mean, hackle's beautiful.
Yeah.
Hackle is beautiful. I mean, I love scrolling through Instagram and be like, wow, that's like 30 wraps of a saddle. Holy cow, that's gorgeous.
They didn't hold back.
No, right? So
Right.
I think hackle's also something that's not the toughest to master. I mean, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, so this is perfect for somebody that's an intermediate tire, and you're not going to get intimidated.
Mastering the comparadon, mastering some of the CDC stuff that Joe's talking about.
Absolutely.
You're teaching yourself new things with it.
Yeah, it's fun, and it gives you something that I think that speaks to like the being a little more subtle. You give fish something different to look at.
Right.
And you can be, quite imitative if that's what they need. And it's just fun to do something different.
And I love to take a proven pattern and slightly modify it to something no hackle.
And then you can change the name, right?
Call it your own.
Then you can call it your own. Then you can change the name.
That's right. Notice I don't have my name popping up everywhere.
It went
that's on purpose.
It was purple
like
to
the lay
line
low.
dubbing.
Is that really a bow bugger, or now what's it called?
A woe bugger.
Whoa.
Is that a clouser or what?
No,
Anyway.
you see what I did is I used a Sharpie, so it's different.
It's called the King.
Yeah.
So take something like a Borcher's Drake and turn it into a comparadon.
Absolutely.
Or add some sulfur, add some CDC to your setup is a great way to do it. Is take core patterns and make slight modifications, and you're showing a fish something different. You don't have to totally reinvent the wheel.
No.
You just have to make small changes,
Which so many fly anglers try and do, right?
Yeah.
We're geeks.
Yeah. We are.
We
Nerds.
Nerds. All right. Next.
Before we go though, all right, from each of you, your favorite no hackle pattern. Come on now.
Oh.
I mean, there's a few gimmies, but
You can have a gimme. I'll give it to you.
no, I'm not going to take the gimme. I'm actually going to go. I don't even know what it's called because I think the YouTube video is just like CDC Mayfly.
Generic. I like it.
Yep.
That's
It's
good.
I think Fly TV YouTube channel they do it, and it's
yeah.
it's for a stillwater. It's a stillwater pattern, but if you do it right, it sits up perfectly. Or if it tips over, it looks kind of like a cripple. And it's just like a standard Mayfly platform that you can change the colors to imitate a bunch of stuff. But that's a really fun one to tie. When it's on the water and floats right, it looks perfect.
Sure. Brian?
I don't know. I'd say probably the snowshoe Hendrickson.
That's a great one.
Tied that way. That's probably my
I'm going to go with the usual.
The
which
usual.
Is
That's a caddis,
right? I think you can do whatever. It's usually a Mayfly. I've always seen it as it's a great sulfur pattern.
It's a great sulfur.
And you're just wrapping the CDC up the shank, palmering it after tying it in, and it's the body as buggy as can be.
It's super buggy.
But it works.
So I've heard that. I always thought that was a caddis fly with the CDC,
Really?
right? So I saw
that way.
something the other day, and it was like the usual, right? So I don't know. You'd put the elk wing over it, or you'd put some sort of wing over it.
You could do.
I don't know.
There's so many possibilities.
Anyway, and you could call it your own.
Anyways, let's. I think it's time to attack our main
All
topic
right.
today, which
Main
again
topic.
is 5 tips for those of you who just have the itch to get out in winter, and we want to help you find some fish.
Absolutely, it's time for winter steelhead and trout. Probably not right now.
Not
but
today.
It looks like in a
Yeah.
few days we're gonna have 30, 40 degrees
Yeah.
coming up.
Yeah, and we'll talk about conditions. That's kind of one of the tips too. But
Absolutely.
it's
So this is really appropriate
it is.
because it's winter. All right, tip number 1: manage your expectations.
I think that's. And to be fair, I made this outline, so I made that as number 1 on purpose. And that's for me of years of going out and trying to force it and just,
Oh, you can't force it in the winter.
Yeah.
You guys may have noticed winter is not always the easiest on fly anglers.
No, it's pretty tough.
Anyone want to speak on the pain that is?
Well, I mean,
or
there's
wide.
there's a lot of pains, but I would say number 1 is the fly line itself.
Yeah.
If it's too cold and you're trying to roll cast or you're trying to manage a streamer and your guides are constantly freezing up,
Oh yeah. Ice.
it makes it really, really difficult. So, or nearly impossible. So that's a big drawback for winter anglers. And the next thing is wading, probably trying to stay warm,
Yeah.
Ooh.
right?
Yep. For me, is the hands. I mean, fly
Hands are
fishing
always
is
tough.
such a line management sport. I mean, sure, fly casting, sure, fly tying, but I think what takes people usually to the next level and separates, success from not success is a lot of times line management, and your hands get wet. You can.
So what do you do to what do you do to keep your hands warm?
I'm very picky about gloves, hand covering. When I'm allowing them to get wet is really important for me. I usually carry 2, if not 3 pairs of gloves with me.
Yeah, I do the same.
And I mean, you get wet gloves, you're kind of toast. So, and the other thing is choosing how to fish, and we're going to talk about that coming up. But biggest thing for me is keep dry at all costs if you can. So
your expectations are going to be, hey, it's going to be cold.
It's going to be cold.
So we have to protect ourselves from the cold.
Fish are not as active in the winter,
and
plain and simple. We
have to know that, hey, we're doing this because I don't want to shoot a hole in my freezer or whatever the Jimmy Buffett song goes, right?
Yes.
Like, we want to just get out. You want to... This is a possibility
I think
of catching a fish.
Right, and I think you're hitting the nail on the head there is, for me in the winter, I reframe why I'm going. It's not to... I caught 8 today. I caught 12. No.
But some days you'll have that in the winter.
Yeah. You will.
And you'll have complete solitude.
Yeah.
It's awesome. It's a great mental health escape, is if you're out there on the right day. Like some days are just nothing goes right. And then it's time to go home. Right. But I don't know, for me, it's such a good mental health thing to just go for a walk.
I went for a walk today, right?
Yeah,
I was a little stressed out just getting back from Cuba.
Trying to catch
got
up.
a lot going, trying to catch up.
Yeah.
And so, what's it, 9 degrees out? Took it like a 4-block walk, and, it felt really good.
Yep.
It's that mental health and solitude is huge because in the winter you get that stillness and quiet, like everything's kind of muffled because of the snow. And it's great. Whether it's a walker getting out on the water. But another thing, like with changing why you go out, is a lot of times in the winter I'm trying to go out just to kind of work on a certain skill or keep in the habit of reading water, just so that when April comes around, you're not behind the 8 ball, which is a tip of, I talk about a lot at a class or in the shop or probably on the podcast a few times, is make sure that you keep the rust off, because when it opens up, then you're ready to go and you're not out there flailing around.
It's a really, I like that a lot. And it's a great time to find new places.
Yeah.
And learn a spot. I mean, low clear water, you can find some structure, maybe make some mental notes, and I'm going to come back here on a day, in April and May, and I bet there's a good hatch here or something. So it's a fun time, as long as the roads are fine. I've spent a day just driving around without a rod in the car, just like, I'm gonna drop a spot here to check out.
Well, you can see through a lot of the places where, in the summertime, it looks too dense.
Yeah,
like, I could get through in this spot to get into here. Yeah,
that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Pro tip.
I like it. All right, and tip number 2, we're gonna move ahead here, is fishing with the right tactics. I think you have to tune your tactics. Man, that sounds like
patent that.
I'm gonna write that down. That sounds like a book title.
That's there we go.
I really am writing this. Sorry. I will forget.
We are such geeks.
It's a good blog title. I think narrowing your tactics down to the bare minimum is really important. I mean, I wanted to laugh. Casey and I drove to the river the other day, and we each took 2 rods. We took, 6 boxes. I'm like, what are we doing?
Right.
It's January.
3 different patterns.
Like, it's about time to grab our rods. I'm like, are you really going to take a second? And he's like, no. Like, I'm not either. So simplifying is huge, I think. And unfortunately, if you're a newer angler, it can be a little tough. I always talk about gaining confidence. This is where your shop comes in. Go ask them what is worth doing.
Right.
And, and for us in Michigan, unfortunately, dry fly is not a very popular thing in the winter. It's not a thing, period. Not a thing. Honestly.
You might find a blue wing olive.
But where I used to live out west, I fished below tailwaters, and you could go fish, midges. It was awesome.
That's magical.
It was a cool thing. But so I would say, really hone your system. Have a game plan for your tactics before you even head out the door.
Are you going to nymph fish?
Right.
Are you going to Euro nymph? Are you going to streamer fish?
Are you going to swing flies? And I would say try and tune your tactics to the conditions too. I would say highest percentage chance I'd be out there with a nymph rod.
Sure.
100%.
A nymph rod. I used to do.
But I only like to sling meat.
I know you do. This is the temple of meat. There's no testosterone in it.
Temple of meat.
Write that down too.
Welcome to the meat temple, everybody.
Sticker idea number 465.
No one's copyright.
So anyway, you're fishing the right way, and definitely in the wintertime,
Yeah.
nymphing is the way to go.
Oh, it is.
Slow and low. That is the tempo.
Fish don't want to move, and take any info about nymph fishing, and it's tough to go outside the box with it. Fish do not want to move. They don't want to burn calories. They don't want to expose themselves. They want to find some some water that's slower and just hang out. But once in a while, break the rules.
Once you find them, man, then
they'll pot up.
You'll get them.
It's awesome.
They do pot up.
I used to do a lot of indicator nymphing. That's how I really, really learned to fly fish. I learned a ton about fishing that way and drifts and stuff, and had some really fun teachers. But let me tell you, I know there's going to be some eye rolls. The biggest issue for me with indicator nymphing this time of year is how wet your hands get. Again, because you're constantly mending.
Right.
You're constantly trying to work line out back and forth. On the cold, windy days, I will be out there with a 10, 11-foot 3-weight. I know.
Yep.
I know you're all rolling your eyes. The Euro nymphing thing, you will stay warmer, though, doing it.
Right.
If you just have that itch that bad, I'll take that stick over the indicator stick.
Yep.
And it depends on where I'm going, of course, too. But
sure. Have you tried the old glove trick with that?
Yes.
Fingers? The nitrile.
It's pretty nice. Pretty nice.
Yeah. I was gonna say too, like even when fishing streamers, I feel like I fish streamers in a way that's closer to nymph fishing than what I would do in the summer. Like all I'm doing is kind of bouncing the rod and setting it back down. You're just twitching it and letting it dead drift.
And you can do that really well with like a conehead nymph or a conehead, streamer.
Yeah.
And then drop a couple nymphs off the back of it.
Yep.
That's pretty deadly. Like that's what we used to do before like Euro nymphing was kind of a thing.
Right. You can go and fish your favorite way. You can go streamer fish. But I would change the flies I'm fishing. I'm changing my retrieve. I'm changing all that to fit the conditions.
Absolutely.
And I think Joe nailed it. We had the fly that worked best for us was a little black leech.
Yeah.
Simple, not too different from a woolly bugger. And I know that's a fly that I've seen just be silly fishing with Joe. Just, hey, nothing's. Let's try one of these on. We try and have these, but simplify your flies.
You can get away with some really, really simple stuff, and black leech is like something that's easy to tie that you can get lost in wood because we're trying to get
slow and low.
It's like you read my mind because we had a customer years ago tell me about this thing he'd carry called the wood box, and it's things that came off of his vise throughout the year that he didn't truly love. And and he'd keep this box and he'd say, if I know there is a high risk of losing a fly, I'm going to take something out of this box, tie it on, and I'm not going to cry when it gets stuck in the log. But
think of all these great things we learn working in a fly shop.
It's
guys.
it's cool. Amazing. It's good to be a sponge. Do we follow through with any of them? Easy.
But hey, we're putting fun back into fly fishing.
We sure are. One thing that I was going to say too, and this might get some jeers from the crowd, but I don't fish fly line much in the winter, and I go to
hot take
like mono rig, something along those lines.
The Euro nymphing type stuff? Or?
Exactly, yeah. Or if I'm doing streamers, because for my hands and for the guides, it brings less water through. so my hands are staying drier and the guides aren't freezing up as much. But much like Brian, when you were mentioning trying to roll cast because of the temps, chameleon, you really have to stretch it quite a bit before you get out there because it tends to coil a lot and it changes the feel in your fingers. But
I'd say almost pretty much any mono.
Any mono.
But it's a really good point because you can, and people think of a mono rig, they think of nymphing. But I think that people should break beyond because
you can definitely dry fly a nymph with it.
You can
streamer. Sorry.
You just no. Yeah, the streamer thing's awesome and it's super sensitive, and I mean it cuts through the water. It's going to sink. So
and like with 15 pound, it's kind of hard, but with 20 pound, it's not bad to cast dries.
Okay,
not big ones, but like smaller ones. It's not bad.
I
once
think we might have to revisit this as a separate episode.
That's
it's
pretty
just talking mono rigs and alternative ways to use fly tackle.
There are people that are pretty good at.
Oh, sure.
Rigs,
I can see why you might think this would draw some cheers from the crowd.
Brian's looking at you funny over there.
Wow, what a great way to transition into the next topic, guys.
All right, are you guys? If you had to go out in the winter, how are you going to fish? I mean, pick your. Don't think about it. Just what rod are you grabbing? How are you going to fish?
Well, I mean, if I'm going to go out in the winter, I'm going after steelhead. So, if I can, I'm going to swing.
Yeah. Yep.
I'd be similar to you, Matt. 10'3".
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just because. Yep. That's where I'm at.
And your own nymph?
To be honest, it's about the only time I really use that rod consistently.
Sure.
Oh, really?
I use it a lot more in the winter than any other time of year.
That would make sense.
Because I'm not nymphing's not my favorite thing to do, so I'll do it when I have to.
Well, we have such good dry fly fishing, so.
Yeah, it's tough. I know. Have you guys I know I talked a little bit about fishing dries in the winter. Have you guys had a chance to do that out west or anywhere?
I had a opportunity to do that years ago at Depew Spring Creek. When I was working for Sims, we did this product knowledge seminar, and we were actually talking about it in Cuba because Ben was on the trip, our rep, and we actually had the midges.
Oh, it's
popping
cool
off with snow. It's pretty amazing.
I miss being out west, not just for the fish, but the settings. The settings are dramatic. And you're not catching huge fish all the time in the winter, but
their
to
cold's
have
a little bit different out west than our cold here. With the moisture that we have is much different, but they have much colder temperatures. You feel more exposed.
I'll never forget some of the wind coming through the canyon. Just go home. It's so painful.
Or like Adam out in the Dakotas, he'll talk about how cold it gets out there. Like -40 and stuff. Like, holy man, that is tough.
I just talked to someone in Bozeman. I guess that's the first time all week they've had above 0.
Yeah.
Fahrenheit.
That's nuts.
That's crazy.
Silly. It happens.
The only place I've heard of dry flies, though, is Josh Greenberg.
Yeah.
Writes about
I could see that.
Over on the Asable.
I think you have to find,
You'd have to know a spot.
You got to find your spots. You got to find, and I think, late winter you can find maybe some stones or something, right? So it's not a big deal.
So the other thing would be, what's number 3 on this?
Number 3 is fish the right place. Make sure that you are looking for the right structure, water speeds, depths, all that kind of good fun stuff. So biggest question would be, how do you adjust what you're looking for in the ideal water type in the winter?
In the winter.
Good question.
That's a great question.
These fish are gonna move depending on, we talked about that a little bit. Fish don't want to work hard.
They don't want to work hard. So you're gonna look. I look a lot of times at the inside bends of the deeper pools.
Yeah. If you haven't, if you're a brand new angler, I'd encourage you go and find a diagram of the different structures of a river. Generally we have pools, we have runs, we have riffles, and I mean, I'll be honest, in Michigan, it's very difficult at times to pick some of that out.
It is.
Yeah.
Very difficult.
Our water can be difficult to read.
Yep.
It's helpful to spend time on the water throughout the year and understand and make mental notes. But yeah, I agree with Brian. Like, you do not
It's
want to be in
tricky.
a big riffle this time of year.
No.
Like that is a place to avoid where fish have, fast moving water. Yes, there's high
The tail out
oxygen, but
of the riffle where it
Yes.
forms into the pool.
transitions.
Transitions. Especially if you get those days when it's going to warm up a few degrees.
Yeah.
They'll sit in the transition water, but they're going to sit in places where they don't have to exude any energy. Right.
Yep.
They're just going to sit on the couch and wait for that popcorn to come to them.
Which is tough. I mean, sometimes fishing places that have almost no current is more difficult. I'll say that all the time. Slow water is a lot of times more difficult to fish than quicker water.
Fast water, absolutely.
So you still want some current, but what Brian's talking about is perfect, is that seam line. You want to be right on the seam. If you're working, one section of river where there's slow on the far side and fast near you, you want to fish right in the transition. But also where that run or that riffle just
Back
ends.
eddies.
Yeah. Yep.
That's always a good one.
So
Here's
Yeah.
a question.
shoot.
If you had to call winter trout water a different species water, like pike water or smallmouth water, carp water, what would you say? What would you call it?
Oh,
That's a good question.
that's a good question. So, like you're looking for pike and stuff like that in the slower
I mean, talking
bayous.
frog water?
Like, yeah.
Yeah,
Is that
like,
the right answer?
Are we going frog water, bass water?
You want frog water. I mean, you want the slowest, deepest pools.
I mean,
usually.
And it's tough
it
too.
depends. That's the number one answer in a fly shop.
Yeah.
I mean, each day is different,
Yeah.
And
It
that's
is.
part of the cool thing.
Well, and that's why
we
it's
want to crack
it's-
the code.
Let the river speak to your soul.
Well, I think
Rather
we
than
should
take it to
go
the fish.
fish different pieces of water throughout, and just see where the fish are going to be.
Right.
It's guess and check, like
It is.
always. But
It is guess
hedge
and
your
check.
bets. Maybe
Yep.
instead of fishing some.
Don't
of that
waste
fast
your time
stuff.
on the
right.
fast stuff.
Exactly.
How do you guys feel about long, slow runs in the winter?
That'll work.
yeah, especially if you're
that can work.
swinging a fly or
Yep,
something.
That can
Yep.
work. Yeah, and then that's the other thing we need to talk about is a lot of states, like our state in particular, some water closes, so you
Yeah.
can't fish it at all.
Yep.
We get questions in the fly shop all the time. Hey, I'm up here on this section of water, and I really can't find another access point. Well, number one, are you fishing? Well, yeah. Okay, that you should check your regs because it's closed. And we want to make sure that we're fishing a section of water that's open. And so that's a big thing. Check your guidebooks.
But the cool thing is we have
so much open water.
and I think that's a big misconception too. I've been on the river floating with a buddy
Yeah.
and had people come out of their house and tell me, "Hey, this is closed." And I'm like, it's
it's
kind of my
not.
job to know. I'm not
Right.
DNR, but
We had some
I
guys
do
coming in
my due diligence.
around men's night that had been out streamer fishing and done. I heard some great reports.
Yeah.
There in late
I think
December.
they finished strong.
So
I think
that's,
this year finished strong. There's
I'm
some
really
good-
excited and always optimistic, guardedly so.
I think this
for
sport
a
is
good
full of
2024.
good optimism.
I hope so.
Well, you have to be optimistic.
Blue lining pretty much goes out the window in the winter.
Yeah.
There's none of that. But if you are curious out there as to what water might be open near you, the inland trout and salmon, I think inland trout and something maps. Just Google like inland trout map, and it'll pop up, and you can look by.
Michigan.gov.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think it's either county or management area,
It's by county typically.
something like that. But that's a really good resource.
Yeah. There's some good resources out there. So just check. But you'll be surprised. It surprises tons of people how much water there is open.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I mean, I know so many people that they come in after the end of September, just slump down, I have to hang it all up. I'm like,
No.
why? There's some amazing water
great
that stays
trout
open.
fishing.
Amazing water. And steelhead. So,
So,
yeah.
all right, number 4. We're talking about fishing the right time. And I think a lot of this, what time? Well, what time of the day? Absolutely.
Yeah.
What time of the week? Whatever. So
Tuesday.
Tuesdays are always the best days.
Time of week.
During
love
Lent,
it.
only Fridays.
Yep. No, but like what time? Well, for me, winter fishing, you want to pick the warmest part of the day.
Totally agree.
So that like 10 to 4, that's like the perfect time to fish. Let things warm up. You don't have to get out there first thing in the morning.
No.
And then you can manage your heat a little bit better. If you're out there 4 or 5 hours, that's more than enough, right?
Oh yeah, that's a good winter day.
That's a great winter day.
And I think, to circle back up to manage your expectations, I forgot to put on there, pick apart smaller chunks.
Right.
These are not, I know guys that do the marathon sessions, good for you. Hats off to you to do 12 hours in the winter. I
Can't do
it's a little.
Well, you know
that's a
what,
lot.
Matt? Doesn't even stay light here 12 hours.
No, you can't. How do you carry that much beer with you?
I did the math the other day. I was like, single digits
Let's
daylight.
see,
Jeez.
daylight. Let's see, we have 8 hours of light.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
fine. But no, I think the funny thing is I've seen that be, that idea broken too. So I think I'd say generally fish in the warmest part of the day, but fish when you can, when you need to.
When you feel like it.
2 to 5 hours.
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah.
I would say
Yep.
too. Like, if you're only out 2 hours, great. If it's too cold, don't kill yourself.
That's why you're trying to keep it simple, right?
Right.
If you take, 2 rods and 10 boxes and, you only have 2 hours, you're going to be second guessing the whole time and the whole way home.
Half your trip just tying knots.
Yeah, exactly.
Here's 2 questions for you. Sun in the winter, do you play it different than you do in the summer? And what about the like fish in the front kind of thing?
Oh.
Little snow
questions.
squalls coming in. You getting excited or are you a little down?
No, definitely. I would still fish the front side of any front. We saw that
Absolutely.
last week with the steelhead fishing, I guess. Just here on the Boardman.
Yep.
Before that front always turns on, and what was the other question?
The sun.
The sun.
It's like in the
Boy,
summer.
that can go both ways.
Yeah, in the summer typically you're like, ooh, sun. Yikes.
It doesn't. Sun to me, I don't know about you guys, but it does not scare me at all in the winter.
Nope. Not at all.
Sometimes I've had my best days.
I've
are
had
that
some of my
sunny-
best days, bright sun.
Yep. Even with steelhead and clear water.
Yep.
I mean, heck,
Trout.
even if you get skunked, at least you're
I
comfortable.
think,
Yeah,
when you have
At least you saw the sun.
when you have ideal conditions, then then you're light. When you have ideal water conditions, then the light conditions play a bigger part. I don't
Yes.
think it matters as much in the winter.
Yep.
Go when you can.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But I don't know. I don't know about you guys, but I love fishing when it's snowing and you get like the super slow giant flakes
Yes.
and not tons of wind. And
Yep.
it's just, I love that. It's just,
Or you
Dead
get the,
quiet.
You get the snow coming one way and the river going the other.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then you feel like, wow, don't fall in because it will make you dizzy.
Whoa.
It is
don't
kind of
get
crazy.
caught in the cyclone. Joe.
Yeah. Don't.
Sorry, we got
All
inside
right.
jokes. Yeah. All right. Let's see.
I think we're ready.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Tip
last
number
one.
5.
Go for it. But no one to call it. Just, in the summertime, it's easy to stay out there for a long time. But in the winter, you're going to suffer a lot. I don't know about you guys, but the winter is when I get all my gear put away, kind of like you talked about an episode or 2 ago, Brian. But yeah, like there's always other stuff to do, other skills to develop. Get out there, have fun, but don't force it. And that was a lesson that Matt, you helped me out with when I first moved here and started winter fishing. Is just
Don't force it.
yeah. That's then you get all guilty because you spend a bunch of time. You got frustrated, so you probably develop no skill or a bad habit or something. It's just go out, have fun for a couple hours, and go home.
Yeah. I was able to share that with you through my own personal experience
I think we've all been there.
because it's cabin fever. You just get worked up and you just try and make it happen. But when you try and force it, usually you leave disappointed. And that's the bummer of it. Is you can spend 10 hours on the water and leave in a bad mood. You just gotta balance it out. You gotta balance it out. So know when to call it is huge for me. If I've broken 3-4 things off and I feel that that rage coming, I'm like, nope, I'm just gonna go home.
You got to pull out the old Kenny
I'm
Rogers.
gonna go hang out with.
Know
I'm
when
gonna
to
go
hold
hang
'em,
out.
know when to fold them.
Yeah, and
Know when
and
to
give
walk
yourself
away,
other stuff
know
to
when
do
to
during
run.
the day.
You never count your money.
This has taken such an interesting turn. You're welcome,
All right.
listeners.
I have $4.
You're welcome, listeners.
You know what? I think we do have cabin fever. Maybe the sunlight here from this wonderful
Yeah. That's
light.
nice.
I don't know about you
Put
guys,
us
but
in a
I'm
better
feeling
mood.
feverish.
Are you guys ready? You guys ready for...
Oh, Matt.
I think we
you
hit
did
all
such a
5 of our
great job
tips.
putting this together.
I'm excited for lightning round. This is a new
I-
thing
this-
we're going to do.
I could
here and
wait
there.
for this. The whole lightning round.
Man,
Lightning
you know,
round.
I
You
keep
know,
panicking
I like
in my
it.
brain because
Don't
I'm
panic.
trying to do lightning sound effects, and I'm realizing it's all
There-
thunder.
Lightning doesn't make noise.
There's no option.
Lightning doesn't make noise.
Are you serious?
Totally.
Oh my,
God,
gosh.
that's so funny.
I almost sang some Fleetwood Mac.
Fantastic.
I almost did a couple of crashes. None of it works for lightning.
No. Doesn't.
If you've made it this far in the podcast, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in, everyone.
Here's my best shot.
All right, lightning round. I got some questions. We have some questions for each other. No
All right.
discussion. This is just simple question and answer. So I'm going to start it off with Brian and Joe. What can't you live without on the water in the winter months? What do you have to have?
Besides Fireball.
Yeah. All right, Brian's answered. It's the only time Fireball is
Absolutely-
acceptable.
Absolutely gloves.
Gloves. Yeah.
I do have to say hot toddies, Fireball, any of that stuff, whatever. Get your spirits up, warms you up a little bit. That's great. Yeah, I go nitrile and wool glove combo. Squeeze out the wool gloves when they get them wet, especially if it's windy, because they do hold water for a while.
That is a solid.
Yeah. We're
That's
actually
all
going to
I
do
got,
a
dude.
little video
Yeah.
about that. So
I
that'll
think
be
it's a
good.
great idea.
Yeah, I like it. All right. Next one. What's the cue for you guys? When do you know it's time to go home?
When the Fireball's gone.
Joe?
I don't know that I literally do this, but when I would sit against the bank, take a break, and not feel reset. Like if my frustration is built to the point where I'm taking a break and I'm still frustrated, just go home.
See, the fishing doesn't get me frustrated. So I would have to say, as soon as I get too cold, it's time to go home.
Yeah.
Like,
for
I
me,
don't
if
wanna-
it's, yeah.
If I start to feel that approach and I've already done some techniques to stay warm, then I know it's time to go home.
I feel like if my pitch counter isn't hitting 35, I'm going home, guys. I don't know about you. You know?
For me, it's if I start to get frustrated retying. That's always, if
that's a
I
good
sit
one.
down and I'm like, oh, not again, or I break off and I'm just like, nope,
That's why
I'm
you gotta-
calling it.
You know, another pro tip: pre-rig in the winter.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a huge helpful thing.
Take those pre-rig foam rolls.
Take those nights you're not fishing and
And-
rig up one or two things. Yeah.
Absolutely, that works great.
All right. Your favorite thing about winter fishing, guys? Quick answers. Lightning.
Solitude.
Solitude, quiet.
Ditto. I got the same thing. Dang it.
It's so nice out there.
It's wonderful. Our least favorite thing about winter fishing.
Cold.
The guide's freezing up.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
wind.
Wind.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah.
All right. I'm excited about this one. You get to choose one. No qualifiers, no shenanigans.
Man.
Your favorite winter fly fishing pattern.
Oh man.
I'm going to go black leech bugger stonefly thing.
That was like Six Flags. You just said.
I think you need to narrow
I don't know
this
what you're
down,
talking
Joe.
about.
Simplify. Didn't we talk about
I
simplify?
was going to go with a black leech spinner.
You get out of here. I'm going to cut your mic off right now.
No, just like marabou tail, some legs or polar chenille, just something that looks buggy that you can twitch or you can dead drift that'll pass either as a small streamer leech or a big stonefly. Something that gives me some versatility.
Yep.
Ooh.
Brian?
Oh, man.
No, I like
Too late?
I like a hex nymph.
Hex nymph?
Hex nymph all around, whether it's trout or steelhead.
All right,
That's a
I'll
good one
allow
to
it,
go
Joe.
with.
Go.
No, you go. You take it.
Go ahead.
You take it.
Go ahead.
No,
Come
I
on.
can't.
Everyone's on the edge of their seat. You have to now.
Eggs.
I was going to say a nuke egg.
Nuke egg.
Because-
That's solid.
If you have a trout population, they will happily eat a nuke egg as
Yes,
well.
they will.
Yeah, it's a great combo setup. It's nuke egg and a leech or something. So
Yeah, egg's tough to beat.
it is. All right, we're gonna wrap it up. This has been
All
a
right.
fun one.
Thanks,
This has
everyone,
been
for tuning in.
five tips for those of you who have the itch and want to get out this winter. I hope this is helpful, and I just want to encourage you, do it. If you haven't done it, pick a day, but watch your weather. Watch, maybe pick a warm trend. we're having plenty of those these years. So
Right. The temperatures definitely change.
Good time to do it if you've never done it would be in March when the lakes get that slush and ice fishing becomes a pain. Go check out a stream or a river.
Yeah.
it's worth doing. Check it out. We have a accompanying blog post that goes with this, so you can refer back to these tips. Also, if you're willing and you enjoy this, you can rate this podcast on Spotify and Apple. It helps us out a ton.
Yeah.
And just want to encourage you, get out there, have some fun, and Joe can't.
You're like working
He's
with
having
Will Ferrell sometimes.
too much
Dude, I
fun.
am-
Just too much fun.
I get the giggles when we do these things, man.
I know.
It's just terrible.
Thanks for listening,
All right,
everybody.
thanks.
We'll see you soon.
Bye, everyone.